Present Time by Santaniello. Copyright 2020.
What this book is about. This book is about present time. This book is about now. Not the thought of now, but now. This book is probably the most obvious book ever written, but I wrote it because it might not be. It's often repetitive, insanely obvious, sometimes crass, sometimes inspiring, sometimes confusing. But mostly, what this book is about is how great it is to experience this little thing called life. This book is what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because I want to help people. I wrote this book because I felt I needed to. I wrote this book because I'm your friend. Whether you know me or not, I care about you. I care because I care about all of my fellow human beings. And I want all of you to live an incredible life. Friends are there for you. Friends remember the little things. But what friends do best is point out all the extremely obvious things that you, for whatever reason, forget about or just don't see, because that's what friends are for. You're welcome. My dad. Without my dad, this book would not be possible. My dad was my hero and still is. He was a farmer and a poet, and his spirit and wisdom are truly timeless. He passed away in 2010, but genetically, I know I have him in my cells, and spiritually, I know he's with me every second of every day. His words of wisdom and irresistible charm are all over this book, and it is written in his honor. Book 1, Present Time and Why We Constantly Lose It. What is present time? Present time is the best thing on planet Earth. In present time, life simply happens. And in the end, present time is all we got. So what is it? I'm not going to answer that. No, not yet. That will only be a distraction. We're going to do things differently in this book. Let's first experience present time for ourselves. Let's dive right in, because experiencing present time is the only way to understand. You've experienced it many times in your life, but you probably forgot about it. That's totally fine. Let me remind you of this everlasting gift you already possess. Let's experience it again. Are you ready? Too late. Here it is. No, seriously. This is it. This right here. This right here is the present moment. This is present time. No matter how you feel, no matter how many thoughts are floating across your mind, and believe me, there are billions of thoughts, this is the present moment. This is present time. Right here, right now. Estamos aquí. To quote the movie Spaceballs, we're at now. Whatever is happening now is happening now. Why is that? It's because we live in present time. It's the most beautiful thing we have on planet Earth, and it's the most obvious thing that we constantly take for granted. But why is it so important? It's important because present time occurs in the present moment. And this present moment is all we really got. This very moment. Because this very moment, anything could be the case. At this moment, at this present time, you may be in your house or apartment, or you may be outside. You may be somewhere else. You may be with a lot of people. Hopefully you're with your friends. But at the same time, you may be alone. At this moment, you may be somewhere you really don't want to be. At this moment, you may be in prison. If you are, you have my sympathy. Then again, at this moment, you may be exactly where you want to be. You may be a child. You may be middle-aged. You may be old. You may be really old. Who cares? You're still here. You might be in a good mood. You might be in a horrible mood. You might be in real pain. You might be bored. You might be distracted. You might be very distracted. You might be dwelling in negative thoughts, drowning in bad, dark thoughts that have been plaguing you down spirals of despair since who knows when. Or you might be thinking of something pleasant, like bunnies, sunflowers, and ice cream. You might be on the verge of finally solving a problem that you've been trying to solve for years. You might be ready to consider something else. But enough about you! How about our other fellow human beings? Look around. Look beyond. This present moment, a ton of stuff is happening. This very moment, newborn babies are making their entrance into this world. This very moment, a beloved one has just passed away. Some people are celebrating. Some people are enduring. Guaranteed, right now, someone is deciding upon something. Guaranteed, this very moment, someone is in deep sleep. And guaranteed, right now, someone is doing something really stupid. Right now, someone somewhere is eating the greatest meal they've ever eaten in their entire lives. And right now, someone somewhere isn't even aware that they're eating. Right now, kids are playing. Transactions are being made. Someone's getting married. Someone's holding in a fart. And right now, someone just farted. Life right now is happening. That's what we call humanity. Because to be human means to be and to do. Present time is what it is. Present time is what it is. It's what you do with present time that matters. And that's its real gift. Everyone knows this. Everyone has heard it said. But not everyone truly understands it. What you give to present time, you get back in immediate return. Whatever possible things you focus on, present time will give it back. And yes, it keeps on giving. It's really up to you how you look at it. It's really how you take it. Some gift, I can hear some of you say. So I've got time. So what? If you give present time your boredom and dissatisfaction, you'll get that in immediate return. If you take this present time and see it as boring, it's you putting your own boredom into this present moment. But if you take present time as a gift and give it your focus and full attention and grace, you'll get that in immediate return. Present time is what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. It is as it lays. Present time is what you make it. Again, present time is a gift. And like any gift, it's either greatly appreciated or goes totally ignored. How do you know when you're in present time? That's an easy one. How do you know when you're in present time? It's when you start living. When we start living. When we start living, we can allow ourselves to wonder. When we start living, we can sense possibilities. When we start living, we experience this crazy thing called life. Why? Because when we really start living, we can love. And when we're in present time, we can really love. Why we love dogs. We love dogs for many reasons, but we really love them because, unlike us humans, they are acutely present at all times. Dogs are constantly at attention and respond to our every move. Dogs constantly sniff, scratch, crawl, and pace. They protect, they bark, they yawn, they greet, they run, they jump, they sit, they lie, they play dead, they play catch, they play, period. Each time you look at a dog, it gives you an immediate response and instant communication. Dogs give us instant joy and unwavering love. They don't ask for much. Except for food and love, dogs don't ask for anything. They're by your side, day and night. And when you're tired, they fall asleep right beside you. So, why do we love dogs? Because dogs don't compare you with others. Dogs, cats, pigs, spiders, alligators, indeed, any animal affirms life. Dogs don't ask you what your job is or how much you've made in a year. Instead, dogs look you in the eye, and with just one look, they heal you with every fiber of their soul. Dogs live in the present moment, and they want you to do the same. Why we love the new. If you're a human being, there's nothing that compares to something new. The newness of new is the fundamental experience of living in present time, because each second reflects it. We love new things because they affirm possibility. The new person in your life, the new experiment, the new idea. All of these latest and greatest things in life are extremely valuable to us humans, at least for a while. Each New Year's Eve is a day of letting go the entire year, and each New Year's Day is a sign of wonder and possibility. The past is gone, and thank goodness it is. Now, for some, the new can be scary, but that fear is an extremely selfish one, because the new represents the best things about life. Nature reflects the newness of new every single second, and we humans mimic nature with our own creations. Anything we create in technology, medicine, art, performances, sports, or even engage in conversation, all purport to the great participation of not knowing exactly what will happen. Because when we really live in present time, each moment is a fresh new start that just happens to happen. Why we love love. Why do we love love? Well, that's easy. It's one of the greatest experiences any human will ever have. A child knows love right out of the womb. All art, poetry, music, performance is based on it, because love is exceptionally human. And whether through deed, duty, or devotion, love drives us into motion. Love comes in all forms and stages of momentum and energy. But above all, love is participatory. We love love because when we love, and we're acutely aware, the feeling of love itself supersedes any other feeling we can experience. When we love, we connect, and when we feel it, we truly feel alive within the moment. In other words, when we're truly living, we're also truly loving. And when we affirm love, we also affirm life, because we become aware of how mysterious this universe can and always will be. So, why do we love love? Because love is the answer. Love is always the answer, and it always will be. Let's experience it again. Let's experience it again. Let's get back to present time. Ready? Look around. Look left. Look right. Look straight ahead. Look behind you. And look straight ahead again. Now, do yourself a favor. Breathe in. Take a long, deep breath. You may hear something. You may see something. Someone may be wanting your attention. Just hold in that breath. You may notice the wind. You may notice the noise of the busy street, or just the noises of the room you're in. That's fine. Notice whatever it is you notice. Now exhale and let it go. Now take note again. If you hadn't had a thought already, don't worry, you will. Thoughts will arise. Let them arise. But don't grab onto them. There's no reason to. Not right now. They'll come back in their own time. Why not now? Because right now, we're back. We're back in the present moment. We're back in present time. This is present time. This is the present moment. I repeat it not for emphasis, but for effect. There's never going to be another second like this one. Because, unlike what your teacher told you, history never repeats. Why? When you live in present time, you simply make your own history. Your own history might be very similar to others, but it's unique to you and you alone. Your experience transcends similarities of the past, but this is your experience. When you're in present time, you realize that you're more real than you've ever been. And with each second of present time, so too comes a gift of opportunity. For if the present moment and present time is actually realized, it provides constant learning and constant opportunity, which in turn inspires constant creativity. And because the present moment is filled with constant opportunity, it also means that each moment we have constant opportunity to learn. When you learn, you become aware. And when you're aware, that's right, you're truly alive. This present time thing sounds awesome, doesn't it? Yes. Yes, it is. I know you've experienced it before. I know you've experienced it countless times. And I truly wish that you experience every moment you can. But the big but. In any story, there has to be a but. And for the story of consciousness, there's no exception. In the case of consciousness, it's a big but. Let's take that back. It's probably the biggest but we as a human species have ever dealt with. Like any but, the big but is an opposing force, which means it negates and cancels everything that goes before it. This big but is inevitable, invisible, and a real pain in the you-know-what. But what exactly is this big but? Simply put, we have this epic present time with glorious yet fleeting present moments. But we constantly forget it. The big why. With a big but comes a big why. We don't lose present time periodically. No, we lose it constantly. But why? To process a big but and a big why requires a big brain. And that's exactly our problem. We have this big, beautiful, busy brain, and it's constantly thinking. And every time it thinks, it loses all sense of present time. This big, beautiful brain. On the outside, it's highly unlikely that the human brain will win a beauty contest anytime soon. This 6-pound lump of fat, when exposed to the open air, is, let's be honest, unsightly at best. But on the inside, your brain is a biological wonder, built from millions of tissues and nerves and systems that have their own systems. The way your brain functions is truly marvelous. The human brain is the most complicated machine on Earth. It's constantly thinking, and it's constantly busy. Whether you're aware of it or not, your brain processes thoughts second by second. Think of the busiest airport in the world. Think of how many people come and go through that airport. Now multiply that by 1 billion. Those are the thoughts in your mind. There are arrivals, there are departures, and more times than not, there is absolute chaos. From deciding how to spend your day to trying to remember that thing you forgot, your mind processes the world around you second by second. It evaluates, it associates, it projects, it calculates, it judges, it compares, it contrasts, it delves, it slips deeper, it asks questions, it asks more questions. It provides examples, it provides counterexamples. Your mind and imagination are literally time machines of thought. They can go backwards in time as far as they want, or dive into the murky waters of the unknown future. But the problem is, in many cases, your brain is way too busy for its own good. Because, in most cases, it is. And, like all beauty queens, your brain too can get very restless, forget things, and for seemingly unapparent reasons, refuse to work. Because these billions of thoughts just keep a-coming. No wonder you think you're crazy. The Great Dilemma. Thoughts are quite amazing, and that's the great dilemma. Certainly, we are a pretty special species. Much of this world is built upon thought. Without thoughts, human civilization would not exist as we know it today. The town you're in was once a thought. The building you're in now was once a thought. In fact, any physical man-made object, any form of language, art, and even concepts of mathematics and physics were, at one point in time, derived via a thought in someone's mind. Any relationship, good or bad, starts with a personal, analytic calculus of someone saying to themselves the frightening phrase, "I wonder what would happen if." Any country, province, or neighborhood has its rules and regulations, and any business, school, or invention runs on the foundation of human intellect, thoughts. Thus, we humans have the lives we've created. But thoughts come at a price, and that price simply is the time you spend with them. With great power comes great absent-mindedness. Sometimes, take that back, most times, we just get in our own way. You want to see people not living in the present moment? You want to see people absolutely deny present time? Just look around. Don't judge. Please, don't judge. Just observe and take in an inventory. Observe what you see. In many cases, You'll see people just absolutely lost in thought. I do it. Presidents and prime ministers do it. Your grandma does it too. You can't tell what they're thinking. In many cases, you don't want to. But in all cases, you'll see people not truly aware that they're in present time. So where exactly do we go when we're thinking? Where exactly do our minds go? Well, that's anyone's guess. But the most likely places are the most obvious. When we're not present, we got two other places to go: the past or the future. If we're not truly present, then we must be either in the past or the future. And in any case, that requires a ton of energy. This big, beautiful, busy brain of ours forgets about present time on a constant basis. And with great power comes great absent-mindedness. In many cases, when we're thinking, we simply forget where in time we are. In many cases, it's not our fault, because, in many cases, we're simply not aware of where exactly our awareness goes. When we forget about the present moment and present time, our mind either goes forward or backward. Forward in expectation, either positive or negative, or backward in processing, either positive or negative. When our minds obsess about the past, we replay and rewind. And when we live in the future, we doubt and wonder. This is how we learn. Yet when people deny present time, this is sadly where their minds frequent. The past and future are great places to visit, but living in either one is hell in and of itself. Why? Because when you get right down to it, both places are entirely passive, inactive, and entirely uninhabitable. And what's worse is that each and every time your mind goes to either one, you abandon present time. Oh, the moments you'll lose. All right, I'll lay down the bad news for you. Don't worry, I won't be rough. I'll just be factual. Present time and the present moment, as great as they are, can be rather fleeting. And for human beings, we just make it worse. When we're constantly thinking, we constantly lose precious moments of pure consciousness. Whether thinking about the future or examining the past, you're going to lose sense of present time, and you're going to lose a ton of precious moments. And oh, the moments you'll lose. Yesterday is gone, so is last week, last year is out of here, and so is the last decade. This past hour, those 15 minutes ago, and yeah, even that second that just flew by your consciousness, that's gone too. You'll lose more present moments than you'll lose money, relationships, friends, followers, pens, or socks. You're going to lose them. Don't worry. It happens to the best of us. We don't mean to lose focus on present time, yet we do. We constantly forget about the now, and we're very consistent in doing so. So much so that we've become unaware that we're unaware. And like gravity, electricity, or your loved ones, present time feels so normal that you hardly even recognize it. But the moment you lose any of these things is the moment you realize how much you take these things entirely for granted. As of now, a time machine does not exist. Now, that doesn't mean in the future a time machine can't exist, but at present time, as I'm writing this book, we have no time machine to go back and forth to rectify things to perfection. In present time, we just have to play the cards we've been dealt. We're going to lose some moments. And, if we're not mindful, we're going to lose a lot of them. But as of now, we must live with the moments we got. Hamlet and Arnold. The following two examples are of people who were constantly stuck in their heads, and consequently, never really lived. Unfortunately, the two never recovered. These guys lost a lot of present moments. These guys never truly lived in present time. These guys were pretty big losers. But we can learn from them. We can learn from their stories. Meet Hamlet and Arnold. First batter up, Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark, heir to the throne, and forever tortured by his own mind. Now, it's not entirely his fault. Talking to your dead father and processing his demands to kill your uncle could overwhelm just about anyone. But for 90% of William Shakespeare's play, Hamlet really doesn't do much. He complains He bickers, he dwells, he struts and fruts his hour upon the stage. And tragically, he ignores his girlfriend Olivia, the one person who truly loves him. Hamlet thinks and thinks, yet does little to nothing. Every time he commits to an act, he screws up or backs out at the last second, and it isn't until the final act that Hamlet finally acts at all. Now, on to Arnold. This poor bastard. Like Hamlet, Arnold wasn't very present. We really don't know much about Arnold. He died tragically. Secretly, I think it was boredom. The only thing the dude left was a pie chart, and curiously, it was of how he spent his time. Let's see how he did. Ouch! Numbers don't lie, but we've got to read them, so let's see them. Time spent dwelling in the past, 45%. Time spent dreading the future, a whopping 35%. Time spent distracted by trivial things that really didn't matter and that he actually didn't like doing, 10%. General complaining, 9%. And actual time living, 1%. Everybody knows an Arnold in their lives. He could be a relative. He could be a friend. But everybody knows a person like him. We're uncertain of his age, occupation, or his philosophy about life. And that might be a good thing. The less we delve into the psyche of Arnold, the better. However, the more we can study how ineffective and miserable Arnold's life was, the better we can steer clear and not be like him. Hamlet and Arnold both spent their times miserably lost in their own minds, and seldom ever lived in the present moment. And consequently, they seldom enjoyed their present time on earth. Hamlet and Arnold barely lived. They are warnings. They are cautionary tales. If you take away anything from this book, I urge you to take away this. You don't have to be like these two losers. You don't know where that brain's been! One Christmas, I received a unique gift. It was a bright orange foam football, shaped in the form of a human brain. And indeed, that was its proper name. The Nerf Brain Ball. On our family vacation, my dad and I threw this brain for all it was worth. For hours, we braved a cold New Hampshire beach and chucked magnificent, inaccurate spirals in the cold, icy air. As the brain wobbled back and forth, we played a game called Whose Brain You Got? And with each throw, my dad and I named a different brain from history. Whose brain you got? Whoosh! I got Einstein's. Who you got? Whoosh! Genghis Khan. Whoosh! Who's next? Saddam Hussein. Whoosh! Madame Curie. Whoosh! Michael Jordan. Whoosh! Albert Hoffman. Who's Albert Hoffman? You'll find out. As time wore on, my brain ball got pretty dirty. This once majestic, bright orange brain soon faded into a gray hunk of chewed-out rubber. And naturally, I had the habit of misplacing it. I'd often find it in my dad's tomato field, in the deep recesses of the garage, or wedged in the hole in the neighbor's fence. One time, I remember my mother screaming at me when I brought it into the house. Just throw that thing away already! You don't know where that brain's been! Well, she was right. Because one day in college, I thought about the brain ball and tried looking for it when I came back home from spring break. But, to my dismay, it was finally gone forever. I still have a sneaking suspicion that my mom probably sold it at a yard sale or simply threw it in the trash. I don't know, and I can't be certain, but I often imagine where my little brain ball ended up. Burned in an incinerator, floating in the sewer, bobbling in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It could be anywhere. And sadly, I may never know exactly where it went. But the moral of the story is this. Most brains follow the same suit. Every brain has a story. Where has it been? Nobody really knows. And quite frankly, nobody really wants to know. But there is some great news. Our brains can travel all over the place, and present time just slips through our fingers. But are we doomed? No, hardly at all. The great news is that you can always get back to present time. It requires a little discipline and a little work, but if you can breathe, you're halfway there. And if you can be aware that you're breathing, you can get back to present time in no time. Like I said, I'm your friend. I want you to live. But most importantly, I want to make sure that you are aware that you're living. Any second, any time, anywhere, if you're mindful, you can always get back to present time. It takes a bit of work to find present time, but believe me, it's the best investment you'll ever make. Because, as you'll find out, the present moment and present time is always enough. Book 2, Find in Present Time. How do we find present time? This part of the book will cover find in the present moment in present time. We covered the what's and whys of present time. Now we're going to cover the how. So, how do we find the present moment and present time? As much as we lose present time and the present moment, we can always get it back. It takes a bit of work, but we can find the present moment by doing 3 things. Step 1, fully realize what this very second is. Step 2, fully realize what thoughts really are. And step 3, step away from thought and actualize this very second. Is this easy? No. Is it impossible? No, it's very possible. But it does take some getting used to. You need time to find present time. This is an inescapable fact. But in that time, you need to practice. We'll talk about practice later. Believe me, we'll talk a lot about practice. But how do we start? For now, let's focus on step 1. Let's realize what this very second is. Realizing what seconds really are. If we're going to find present time in the present moment, we have to do this second by second. But what are seconds? Seconds are a measure of time and space, and they add up quickly. This is painfully obvious, but it needs to be said and repeated. Every second matters. Cliché as it sounds, corny as it sounds, it needs to be repeated. This very second matters. So does this one. Snap your fingers, clap your hands, blink your eyes. Seconds come and seconds go. There are 86,400 seconds in each day. There are 604,800 in a week. If you're 32 years old, you've lived 1 billion seconds. If you're 64 years old, you've lived 2 billion seconds. And if you hit the genetic jackpot and you're 93 years old, you've lived 3 billion seconds. But that doesn't really matter. What really matters is that all of those seconds, including this very one now, were once or have been or will be a present moment, regardless if you're aware of them. Not everyone keeps score, but yes, every second does count. Realizing what thoughts really are. On to step 2, realizing what thoughts really are. What exactly is a thought? Let's go to the dictionaries. Here's the entry from Cambridge Dictionary. Thought, past simple and past participle of think. Well, that was helpful. On to the old Wikipedia. Thought, an aimed-oriented flow of ideas and associations that can lead to a reality-oriented conclusion. All right, we're getting a little warmer. Let's turn to Webster's definition. Thought, an idea, plan, opinion, picture, etc. that is formed in your mind, something that you think of, the act or process of thinking, the act of carefully thinking about the details of something. Ideas, opinions, memories, breakthroughs, fears, hopes, desires. Thoughts are all around, and they make up this world. Thoughts might be awesome. Thoughts might be terrible. Thoughts might be groundbreaking. Then again, a thought might just be a thought. And whether these thoughts are weird, important, silly, intriguing, contrived, exceptional, mundane, malevolent, or benevolent, your mind is constantly producing them. Coming to terms. Before we go on to step 3, a little more is required of you. For steps 1 and 2 to really stick, we have to come to terms. What are the terms? The terms to present time are to make present time as personal as you possibly can. And to do that, you really have to ask yourself some big personal questions that you alone know the answers to. The reason for this is because present time is personal. This is your time on the planet. This is your mind. This is your experience. If you never make present time personal and uniquely known to you, you'll never truly understand it. So what are you waiting for? Let's get to the questions. The big questions. The big questions. Now come the big questions. These questions are going to be brutal, but they're all essential. The more honest you are with yourself, the more you know exactly what to do. The more dishonest you are with yourself, the more lost you will become. These are going to be hard questions, revealing questions, embarrassing questions. But part of being aware is being responsible. Part of being responsible is being accountable. And part of being accountable is to look at the hard numbers with sober eyes. Okay? Let's go. Because, ready or not, here they come. How have you spent the seconds of your life? Have you spent those seconds enjoying, striving, thriving, discovering, and experiencing life? Or have you spent most of them lost in thought? If you're 32 years old, you've had 1 billion seconds. But even if you're only 16, you've had 500 million seconds. So really, what did you do with them? Just how many of those seconds were you actually aware? How many of those seconds can you remember? How many of those seconds did you cherish and fully live? How many of those seconds did you think about the past? How many of those seconds did you spend dreading an upcoming future event? And just how many of those seconds did you dread about things you had absolutely no control over? I know, those are some big questions, and only you can answer these questions. Only you know what is true for you. It's the way you look at it. Once you answer these questions, you will change the way you look at present time. People sense the world in different ways. It's called perspective. You have your own, and you know how your mind works. You can look at it as a battle. For some, finding present time works best if they look at it as a battle. Sometimes, enemies are needed. For humans, this need seems to be wired into our DNA. Whether it's corrupt kings, dictators, governments, countries, bullies, gangs, corporations, organizations, or parents, there's someone responsible for all this, and that bastard has to be taken out. So, who is our enemy? That's easy. We fight ourselves, and it's a battle within. The fight to find present time is no different. It starts with ourselves. The endless chatter in your head denies present time and your awareness. One of the best books written in this century addresses this point beautifully. In his book, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield wrote about resistance, an invisible, inner, powerful force that people must do battle with every day. When it comes to present time, resistance is the endless chatter in your brain that makes you procrastinate, overthink, and deny present time and the present moment. If we look at present time as a battle, we know things beforehand. We know it's gotta be nasty. Because if seconds are taken seriously, we know that it's gonna be an ongoing slugfest. Your life and how it's lived depends on it. There's no shame in this thinking. It works, it's effective, and it certainly drives things into motion. We humans tend to fight ourselves from age 5 to the casket. And when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary to do battle and gain forthright independence from the invalidating chatter that is inside your head, you have every right to go forth and fight the good fight. So go ahead. Fight your heart out. You can look at it as a choice. If battle and mayhem are not your thing, you can look at it simply as a choice. Looking at present time as a choice enables a great element of freedom, without all the moral, ethical conceptions of evil and ill will, and without all the blood and guts. When you get right down to it, you have a choice. You can either live your life lost in thought, or you can live your life being truly present and aware. Which rabbit hole to choose? Well, that's up to you. Because the choice comes down to where you put your attention. The glorious awareness of present time, or the same monotonous thought patterns that have dictated your life from get-go. Are you going to lose yourself in thought, thinking and rethinking the same negative emotions? Or are you going to focus simply on now? Your brain has the great ability to go where it wants to. Thoughts are thoughts. Present moments are present moments. The question is, where do you put your attention? These are some big choices, I know, but they're your choices, and it's always up to you. If you look at it as a choice, you can always regain your sense of freedom, and you can always choose to live in present time. You can even look at it as currency. If battle and choice metaphors don't do it for you, that's fine. I'll hit you where it really hurts: your wallet. The old cliche, time is money, really works because numbers tell a story. For the moment, let's remind ourselves what money essentially is. Money, essentially, is numbers in a database. It feels so much more than that, but that's what it is: numbers and digits. So, here's the point. Ready? How would you live if every second of your life was recorded as $1? Scary, I know. Can you remember what you did 11 days ago? That was 1,000,000 seconds. Now, if each second represented $1 in your bank account, you'd certainly take notice. If you had $1,000,000 in your bank account, you'd certainly take interest in what and how it's spent. You'd certainly take account, and you would certainly want to know how each second was spent. Each second as $1? That's a little harsh. It's harsh, but it's necessary. But the price is really cheap when you think of it, because, in reality, each second is worth much, much more. Seconds can get very expensive very quickly, and when time and attention are formed within the realms of currency, you're almost guaranteed to pay attention. But realize this: the knowledge you've gained on this planet is yours and yours alone, and each moment you live is an opportunity to enjoy this unique gift, the present time. You can look at it as a battle, or you can look at it as a choice. You can even look at it as currency. But until you realize that every moment is an opportunity to enjoy and savor this mysterious thing called life, you're in danger of completely missing out. And once you realize what seconds and thoughts really are and accept their terms and conditions, we're ready for step 3. Step 3. The next chapters will deal with step 3: how to step away from thought and actualize this very second. In a nutshell, step 3 is about gaining space and distance from the billions of thoughts going through your brain and to bring yourself back to present time and the present moment. Call it mindfulness, call it awareness, call it meditation. Step 3 is about getting our time and attention back so we, in turn, get back to present time. For some, meditation can sound spooky, but so too was driving a car, or swimming, or kissing, or applying for a new job. You did these things because there was an internal want to do it. And the more you did them, the easier they became. Meditation is no different. Meditation is a practice. Practice is a meditation. When you get right down to it, meditation simply means to become familiar with. It really means to fall into a practice. Practice, practice, practice. To find present time, you gotta practice. Why practice? Well, put simply, practice is everything. I learned the value of practice pretty early, and luckily, my dad reinforced how important it was every chance he could. Whenever I got down on myself because I wasn't making progress, whether in school, my own writing, work, or even playing my saxophone, whenever I felt frustrated or just couldn't go on, my dad would say something very, very annoying. "Dennis," he'd say, "how does corn stay on a cob?" And I'd respond begrudgingly, "Practice, practice, practice." As the years rolled on, that stupid quote lingered in my head. It was probably the most annoying phrase I had ever heard, but I knew my dad was right. I hated that he was right, but he was right. The more I practiced, the more I got good at something. And naturally, the more my dad would encourage me. "There you go, Den. You're staying on the cob." And as the years rolled on, those words resonated with me because I realized that I saw practice in everybody and everything. Practice is something we never truly understand unless we take a step back and see exactly what it is. And what is practice? Practice is sheer repetition, the most basic element of learning. To get good at something, it has to be repeated over and over and over again. Whatever you do over and over again, you'll eventually get good at it. If you practice shooting a basketball day after day, you eventually will form a skill. If you practice anything for long enough, you'll get good at it. Unfortunately, people have been practicing the wrong things for such a long time that, like gravity, people tend to forget to be conscious of it. In the end, whatever you practice is a rabbit hole. It's a deep portal of focus that captures all your imagination and attention, and most importantly, your time. Awareness doesn't come all by itself. You gotta put in the work. So choose your rabbit hole wisely, because you are what you practice, and practice is everything. So, what are we gonna practice? What are we gonna practice? What are we gonna do? Well, get ready, because here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna practice mindfulness, and we're gonna practice using our imaginations. We're gonna practice being aware. We're gonna practice disassociating ourselves from thoughts. We're gonna practice non judgment. We're gonna practice using our senses. We're gonna practice surfing our waves of thought. We're gonna practice pulling ourselves out from under rip currents of thoughts. We're gonna practice letting go of our bodies to examine ourselves from 50,000 feet up. We're gonna recite mantras, and if need be, we're gonna replace our old, outdated, and harmful mantras with exciting, life affirming mantras. We're going to practice denying associations to objects and sensations. We're going to practice saying or stating or sensing what exactly is. We're going to become aware. We're going to be outside of our minds. We're going to go behind our minds. And we're going to encourage ourselves to make the best of this present moment and all the ones after it. The next exercises are going to be a carefully controlled mixture of mindfulness, consciousness based meditations, mantra based meditations, positive affirmations, and hypnotic, hyperactive, and imaginative play. All of these practices will help us find present time, but they're all developed for one purpose: to get you out of your own way and to let you get back into this very present moment. There will be some exercises you might not like right off the bat. That's totally fine. You could just fall in love with one exercise and do it over and over again for seemingly your entire life. That's fine too. You don't need to do them all, but if you want to get good at being present, it's important to at least try them all. Because getting out of your own way is an art in and of itself. And like any art, it requires a lot of practice. The point of these practices. The point of all these practices is to simply get back to now. Because when you get back to now, you get back to the present moment and present time. Don't get bogged down with the exact way you do these practices. Rather, do them as you see fit. It's your breath, it's your time, your senses, your thoughts, and your imagination. They all belong to you. These are your meditations. Personalize them as you see fit. There is no right or wrong way to do them. The point is that you do them. Must you be alone when you meditate? No. Meditating in groups or guided meditations are not only some of the most spiritual things you can do, they're also the most human. When you meditate, what you must remember is that this is your experience, each and every time. Each and every second you meditate is a chance to connect. This is your experience. This is your present moment. This is your present time. Because what matters most is that when you gain awareness, you can step away from your thoughts and really see the mechanics behind this great thing called consciousness. It all begins and ends with you. The only requirements. Before we begin these exercises, I must remind you that there are only 3 requirements. 1. You need time to do these exercises on your own time. 2. You need to breathe. 3. Please, please, please do not do these practices while driving or operating machinery. If you don't make time, these practices will not work. Rather, if you don't give these practices time, you don't even give yourself a chance. In other words, you need to give these practices some time. Also, if you're not breathing, we've got some problems. It doesn't matter that you breathe properly. It matters you breathe, period. And lastly, please, for the love of consciousness, for your sake and the sake of others, do not do these practices while driving or operating machinery. Have someone else drive. Take the train. Enjoy your flight, or just sit comfortably in a safe environment while you're doing these exercises. These practices require you to be absolutely conscious of this very moment. Multitasking is not only counterproductive, it often defeats the purpose. So please, give these practices the proper attention they deserve. Got it? Okay. let's jump right in. Breathe in. Breathe out. It all starts with the breath. Any exercise and meditation starts with a good inhale and an equally good exhale. It all starts with the breath. Some call this process anchoring, and that's a specifically good metaphor to use. When we lose the present moment, we literally lose it like a piece of paper in the wind. To keep the moment, it needs to be held in place. We're anchoring to our breath because it's as solid and as reliable as anything we know. And, unless you're absolutely dead or incapacitated, you have the ability to breathe. And with the breath, we can anchor, set, and hold our place to the present moment. So a 5-second inhale exhale is a legitimate meditation? Yes, it's a legitimate meditation. Because during those 5 seconds, a miracle happens. For those 5 seconds, thoughts go away. But why do we focus on the breath so much? Because without it, we don't live. After all, it's the most basic mechanism of being alive. Because in those 5 seconds, you're putting your full attention on just the rise and fall of your stomach. And in the instant you do this, you step away from the constant narrative of your thoughts. You need to do this millions of times. But if you do it millions of times, then you will discover present time in real time. Exercises, no matter how short, how seemingly meaningless, or ineffectively they may seem on the surface, if done on a constant and legitimate basis, will create quantifiable results. In other words, keep breathing, because every time you do, and every time you become aware that you're breathing, you're participating in present time. Welcome. Let's do it again. Whether this is your first meditation or your millionth, let's do it again for doing's sake. Let's become aware. Let's breathe once more. Inhale. Take in a breath. Let it settle. Let it settle some more. Now let it go. Once more. Close your eyes this time and inhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Don't control how you breathe. Your body knows exactly what to do. Inhale. That's right. Take a deep breath. Got it? Now let it settle. Let it settle some more. Now let it go. We do this each and every second, but we're not entirely aware. But now, we are. We're aware. We're aware that we're taking in oxygen and displacing it into carbon dioxide. We're alive in the present moment, in present time. This is so dumb. Psst, what kind of BS is this? If he says breathe one more time, I'm going to scream. This is so dumb. This is beyond dumb. Okay, I'm aware. This is the present. What the hell's the point? Breathing? What the hell does breathing have to do with anything? Why did I buy this book? This guy is full of it. He's saying nothing new. I'm so angry. This is so stupid. I'm even more stressed than I ever was. I can't meditate. I just can't. It's just not for me. Ah! Who was that? That voice that you just heard was an inner critic of inner thought. Could have been very similar to your own inner critic. In essence, that voice was a thought. It's a representation of your inner narrative. That voice isn't us. It's a version of us, but it's not us. Thankfully, that voice is gone. Not forever, but for now. Whether it's a doubt, concern, grievance, whatever the case may be, that voice is important to alert you to the dangers of your environment. But if you listen to that voice long enough, you will give all your power to it. And sadly, that's what the inner critic does best. It keeps you addicted to listening to it, offers no alternatives, and makes you feel bad just for drawing a breath. What an asshole. And consequently, your inner critic will take all the present moments and present time it can from you. But here's the great news. We're aware now. We're aware of that voice. We're aware that it's not us. The power is in our hands. We can choose not to listen to that voice. That voice is always there. But here's the real secret. It only comes back when we let it. Although we're not always aware of it, we invite that voice. And when we invite it, it's our choice to do so. And since it's our choice, we can also choose to do the opposite. We can choose not to invite it over. We can choose to step away from it. Let's get back to our senses. Now that that voice is gone, let's reset and get back to our senses. For the next 5 practices, we're going to use our senses. And with them, we're going to step into the now. If you're lucky enough to have all 5 senses, please use them to the best of your ability. If you only have a couple of these senses, you already know how profoundly special the senses you do have really are. But believe me, if you go a little deeper, you'll be even more grateful. Before we begin, I'm going to repeat something very important. Don't judge and don't associate. I'll repeat it again because it's important. Don't judge and don't associate. Because the second we do either of those things, we're back inside our heads and thinking endless thoughts. When we judge and associate, we attach and switch our focus into thinking. We don't want that. Not now. We want the experience. Our job is just to observe. So with each exercise, observe what you observe. Acknowledge what each sense is given to your body. No questions need to be answered. No stories need to be conjured. For right now, all we're going to do is use each of our senses, observe, and state whatever it is we come across. So let's get back to our senses, and let's take an inventory of our current universe. Let's open our eyes. For this practice, let's open our eyes. Notice the world for what it is. Notice what you notice. Disregard the associations. Disregard the adjectives. This is no time to think. This is a time to observe. Don't judge. Don't think. Just notice. Whatever you see, take a mental note, a mental image, and relay it to your mind. Acknowledge all the things that you're currently aware of. So, open up those peepers, and let's take an inventory. What do you see? Are you inside, or are you outside? Is it familiar, or is it new? What building are you currently occupying? What floor are you on? What color is the nearest wall? Just list what you see. People, clothes, paper, a houseplant. Don't give it a story. Just list what comes into your vision. Shopping carts, a wooden door, garbage, cans, concrete, dirt, rocks. Whatever you notice, just notice. When you notice these things, just do that. Don't put any judgment on these things. Don't associate. I know it's hard to do, but you're doing great. Keep going. What else do you see? If you're outside, take a look. What's the air like? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it raining? Notice the landscape. The buildings, the trees, the concrete, the dirt, the stone, the grass. Is there an elevation, or is it flat? What's across your view? A tree, a dog, gates, a truck, a woman, lights, a bicycle, fences, a pencil, a couple, rocks, cement, flowers, puddles, signs? Now let's look up. If it's still daylight, look up to that bright, beautiful sun. Say hello if you want to. Glance at it for 1 split second. 1 split second is all you need. Now, don't look at it directly. Just glance. It's not going to damage your eyes. Now acknowledge that bright big star. Let it warm your face. If you can't see the sun, don't worry. Notice the clouds in the sky. Notice how the clouds form. They might look like similar objects. Just let them form. Let them build. Let them tumble. Just as they come, just as they are. The clouds will part. It might take a while. But when the time is right, the sun will always come back. It's always been there for you. And if it's nighttime, you're in great company. Look up again and notice the stars above. Thanks to light pollution, we can't see as many stars as we used to. But they're still there. Billions of them. Watch them as they are. Watch what they do. Watch them swirl. Watch them twinkle. Watch them dance. Just take note of them and all that you see. For this is the universe as it is. And notice, too, that as small as you may seem, you are a part of it. All ears. All right, let's do a sound check. Let's observe the sounds of our current environment and tune in to take notice of what exactly you hear. If you're alone, notice the sounds of the room. If you're with people, notice the sound levels of the room. If you're listening to this audiobook, are you merely listening to my voice? Or is there something else in the background? Do you hear machines, laughter, music, the wind? Are you listening to one of your favorite songs playing in the background? If so, what do your ears first notice about the song? The rhythms of the piano? The melody? Whatever vibrations, take note of them and be aware that you're aware of them. Birds chirping, babies crying, sighs, hums, whinings, clicks, roars, bangs, whispers, cries, shifts, squeals, booms, squeaks. Whatever comes into your ears, rhythmic or not, whether it be from a man, animal, or machine, it doesn't matter. These sounds, these vibrations, are the sounds and vibrations of the world around you. Sound good? You've got the touch. Now pay attention to what you feel. Not how you feel, but what you feel. Not emotionally, but physically. Are you in pain? Are you lightheaded? Are you content? Are you hungry? Pick up the nearest object in front of you. Can you feel its mass, its weight and density? Does it feel light or heavy? Can you feel its texture? Is it smooth or is it rough? Open the door and stick your nose outside. Now feel the weather. Is it hot, mild, cool, cold, humid, dry, rainy? If your loved one is near you, feel their heartbeats. Feel their pulse. If your loved one is not there, feel your own heartbeat. Feel something? I sure hope you can feel something. Can you feel other sensations in your body? Lift up your arms and notice how they feel. Feel your muscles when you stretch. Do they feel tight? How's the energy in your body? Do you feel loose? Do you feel constricted? Do you feel low? Do you feel high? Do you feel intense? Feel the energy in your room. Is it dull and dank? Or is it lively and life affirming? If you're sitting down, can you feel the weight and mass of your body? Feel the ground below. Feel the objects in front of you. Can you feel the weight of gravity pulling down on you? Whatever surface you may be on, can you feel its texture? Can you feel the hard concrete, or the soft wood, or the cold, hard ground? Can you feel the rise and fall of each breath? Can you feel the wind around you? Note what you feel, and don't attribute. Don't conjure. Don't try to explain, fabricate, or justify. Just note what you feel, because this life we have is very touch and go. The old factory, still open for business. On to our sense of smell. On to the old factory. If you're lucky enough to smell, you have the ability to constantly unlock one of the most unique features life has to offer. It's a smelly, wonderful world. The old factory is still in business, so let's smell it up. Your own breath is a good place to start. Take care of that if you haven't already. Dragons need to be slain. Start with your own. You'll thank yourself, and believe me, others will thank you too, even if they don't say it. Now, let's explore some more. Whatever goes through your old factory, smell it up. We're here to absorb and sense gaseous particles, so let's do so. If you're in New York City, you'll probably notice the smell of hot dogs from a block away. If you're in Japan, you'll probably smell the scent of dashi lingering in the air for hours at a time. If you're out in the country, smell the fresh air. Smell the barbecues and the fresh cut grass. Some smells are just wonderful. Roses, lilacs, honeysuckles, ice cream, coffee, pizza, bacon, new cars. And then some smells are just horrendous. Gas fumes, vomit, garbage trucks, manure, urine, feces, body odor, rotten vegetables, rotten meat, rotting corpses. Ugh, let's face it, some things just stink. You've got to be careful with smell. Smell can trigger association faster than any other scent. Your mind can't help but to associate smell with past experiences, because once you associate a smell with past experiences, once you judge them, you go right back into the past and lose the present moment. So, don't let your mind wander back. For this exercise, just smell what needs to be smelled and move on. We're here for new moments and new experiences. Taste the rainbow. On to taste. A sweet, sour, spicy, bitter, and salty cavalcade of flavor awaits you. The word savor, S-A-V-O-R, is an accurate one, for it contains both the words save, S-A-V-E, and flavor, F-L-A-V-O-R. And when we savor, that's exactly what we do. We save the flavor. So let's savor. What taste is in your mouth? Sounds disgusting, I know, but that's only to your ears. What are you currently tasting? What is your tongue currently sensing? From the sweetness of a fresh-picked strawberry, to the cold, cooling crunch of your favorite ice cream, to the wholesomeness of a juicy slice of watermelon. Savor it. Did you just eat a chili pepper? Is your mouth on fire? As much as it hurts, save the flavor. Be it bitter or sour or sweet, savor what your tongue is experiencing. Your tongue is one of the most strongest muscles in your entire body, but it's also the most honest. It knows exactly what it prefers. A funny thing happens when you don't automatically judge or associate. So what happened? Did your mind go all over the place? Could you not help but to associate a sense to a thought? Cool. That means you're human. But were you more aware of being aware? If so, great. If not, that's okay too. You'll get better. So what did we just practice? What we practiced was the dribble, the throw, the catch, the forward pass, the basic stretch, and pose of mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the basic human experience of witnessing the present moment without association or judgment. In these practices, we witness the present moment as it was. Each exercise corresponded to the simple act of raw observation and experience. Did you notice anything about doing this? It felt vaguely familiar, no? A funny thing happens when we don't judge or associate thoughts automatically. Cars just become cars. Sports teams just become sports teams. People just become people. No fear, no bigotry, no guilt, no sadness, no shame. Remember when the world was this way? I know, it's hard not to automatically judge. Most of our lives, we've associated, we've recognized patterns, we've made immediate assumptions, and in many cases, we were completely wrong about someone or something. For many, it's hard to remember the last time they just observed things as they are. Probably when they were children. And that's exactly right. Are kids filled with boundless energy? Yep. Are kids locked into the present moment? You betcha. When you don't automatically judge, when you don't assume, and when you just take things as they are, the world becomes bright again and filled with opportunity. Of course, there are times when we have to think and judge and associate, but when we do this all the time, we lose our sense of the present. As much as we try, there are times when we just can't stop thinking. We must think, we must judge, we must associate that thought with another thought. And guess what? That's totally fine. That's totally normal. We really wouldn't be human if we didn't think constantly. Sometimes thinking is in our best interest. Sometimes thinking is the best we can do. Sometimes judging people on the content of their character will help us make better decisions, especially in regards to public safety for our future and our children's future. And sometimes associating thoughts with other thoughts will lead us to breakthroughs that are truly great and wondrous. Let's be very clear. We're not here to stop thinking. We're here to be aware that we're thinking. Now come the thoughts. You're going to think. It's okay. Let yourself think. We don't need to wait for thoughts to happen. They come when they want to. But we're going to do it differently this time. We're going to observe our thoughts this time. Just like we did in the previous exercise, when we were using our senses to experience the world around us, we will use our mind to observe our thoughts. So let's go. Let's list everything coming through our heads. Again, we're not here to think, we're here to notice that we're thinking. Say the thoughts aloud if you want to, not if you can. So let's go. What are you currently thinking about? Whatever it is, just list it. Take notice. List the thoughts coming in. Observe them. Put a mental tag on them so you can track them. And just watch those thoughts flow in and out. Ready? Okay, here comes the circus. Some people are already on to next week. Some are still stuck about what happened 9 months ago. Whatever those thoughts are, tag them. Place a label on them. You'll sort them out later. For now, just watch them come and go. Let's observe some more. Here's some pink elephants. Here's that stupid thing you said. Here's the thing you should have said. Significant others, friends, obligations, deadlines, bills, things you're avoiding, your parents, birthday parties, weddings, concerts, canceled plans, that idiot who wanted to know what happened to so-and-so, that mean school teacher who gave you a dirty look 20 years ago. All of these thoughts can lead to emotions. All of these thoughts will emerge and go back from whence they came. It's totally okay. Damn, those were a lot of thoughts. That was quite a storm. You're going to think. The point of all these exercises is not to eliminate thinking. It's simply to be aware that you're thinking. Your brain can't help but to think. But let's remember what we're doing right now in present time. We're in present time, thinking thoughts. But because we've disassociated from thoughts while using our senses, we can apply the same to thoughts themselves. But for now, let's remind ourselves of the very obvious. For the past few seconds, minutes, hours, weeks, months, years, centuries, and past millennia, we've been thinking. It's totally okay. Let's take a break. It's time to close our eyes. It's time to take a break. It's time to drift. It's time for a well-deserved, well-earned mental vacation. It's time to escape to our own private islands. Your own private island. What we did in the last exercises, we're going to do again. But this time, we're going to have the most relaxing backdrop you can possibly imagine. For the next set of exercises, we're going to go deeper. We're going to practice the same principles of awareness, but we're going to do them with your own subconscious in your own private island. The reason why we need this backdrop is because to really enjoy present time, we really need to relax. Now, relaxing doesn't mean completely shutting off your mind. Relaxing really means that you're not bothered by external forces. So it's best to do the following exercises with your eyes closed in some place where you know you will not be bothered or distracted by someone or something else. We're going to speak to our subconscious in the language that it knows, the language of dreams. But we're also going to be fully present, fully engaged, and fully aware while doing so. By actualizing the very present seconds that we're aware in, we are going to not only discover what our mind does and how it thinks, but we will also change the software of its thoughts if we need to. Because in the end, this is your mind. This is your present time. And this is your own private island. Sounds scary? It's really not. Because if you're human, you've had dreams. You've had images and flights of fancy that went on in your head with such fluidity that at times you couldn't distinguish it from reality. You've imagined conversations that were never said. You've imagined horrible things that never happened. You've imagined outlandish, outrageous events occurring without your consciousness' permission. If you can imagine that, you can imagine a beach. So, what are we going to practice? Doing nothing? Oh yeah, big time. Sound good? Okay, let's do it. Close your eyes. Imagine a sandy, sun-soaked beach. It's coming into view. Your own private island. It's your creation. No one else knows this place. Take another breath. That's it. Now take another. Your island could be surrounded by water, or it could be surrounded by ice. Anything of nature could be on this island. It could be warm, it could be hot, it could be cold, or room temperature. This is your island. Anything goes. Go nuts. Knock yourself out. Just as long as you feel that it's uniquely yours. This is your own private sanctuary. This is your own creation. No one in the entire world knows about it. Your island will be different than mine, and right it should be. Again, this is your own private island. No one else can place any rules upon it. As long as the sun is shining and you're in your most comfortable position, you're good. On your own private island, you'll become a better version of yourself. But only if you want to. Change as you see fit, or stay exactly as you are. This is your island. Do the exercises you want to. But the main thing we're going to do on this island is to continue what we've been doing in the previous exercises. We're going to continue to simply observe. Let's head to shore. Now, look around your island. Take an inventory of what you see. You'll notice towards the shore an endless sea with endless waves. See all those waves crash about, slip, slide, and tumble. It's peaceful, isn't it? Well, at least it should be. Let's get a closer look at them, shall we? Let's move a little closer. Do you see those waves? Yeah, those waves right there. See them? Those waves are your thoughts. That's all they are. The thoughts of your mother, the thoughts of your girlfriend, the thoughts of your bank account, the thoughts of terror, the thoughts of what could go wrong, the thoughts of what you should have said when you were 12 years old. All those thoughts are here. All those thoughts are just waves in this ocean that crash and tumble onto your own private island each and every second of each and every day. But thoughts just don't come as waves. They can come as clouds. They can drop down in drips of rain. And, at night, thoughts can come as infinite as those icy twinkling stars and stare right down at your soul. So, there they are, the thoughts of consciousness. All we can do now is just watch them come into view. The waves of thoughts. So let's just watch. Let's just sense. Let's just observe the waves of your thoughts. Every time you stand on the shore of your own private island, you are in the present moment of present time. Move in closer. Watch the waves of thoughts tumble in and out. Now move away. Remember what those waves are. Those waves are thoughts. Simply watch. Simply observe those thoughts. Watch them come to surface. Watch them retreat back from whence they came. Not every thought comes in soothing and calm. Some of these waves of thoughts make a lot of noise. Some of these waves of thoughts are downright annoying, even terrifying. You never know what wave you'll get. You never know what wave emerges. That's fine. Let's remember what they are. Let's give them a name. Waves of the past. Waves of the uncertain future. Waves of the most horrible thing. Intriguing waves. Inspiring waves. They all blend and tumble together. When we stand on shore, we cannot lower the volume of these waves. There is no volume switch to lower the sound, nor is there any mute button. But there is something we can do. That's right. We can simply step away and move inland. We can always step away. Stepping away. For the time being, for this present moment and this present time, we can step away. The waves of thought are always there. Sounds terrible, right? Not really. Thoughts reflect our experiences of life, our emotions, our insights, our own identity. Yet, our awareness of them is much greater. And when we move our awareness further and further away from shore, we gain the space and separation that we desperately need. When we step away, we're not denying these thoughts. We're merely creating space. And this is what true awareness is all about. So let's do that. Let's step away from the waves. Let's move further inland, back to the present moment, and back to present time. Come on, turn your back to those waves and head back inland. A little further, a little more. Okay, stop. Now look back. What do you see? Exactly. An endless sea of thoughts. When we practice this exercise of stepping away to free space in our mind, what we're practicing is simple awareness. We're sensing for once how the mind works. And as we do, we gain much needed perspective. We're not analyzing, far from it. We're participating, and we're gaining perspective. Because finally, these endless waves of thoughts suddenly don't have the control they once had. Watch those thoughts again. The beach looks so pretty from this spot, doesn't it? Hopefully it's warm on your beach. Hopefully you're having a good time. But whatever is the case, let's watch those waves once more. Let's watch those thoughts come from afar. Watch them form in and out. Again, don't associate. Don't judge them. Just let them come, acknowledge them, and let them go. Are you ready? Let's do it. Step back a little further. There comes the wave of anger. Oh man, look at the size of it. It's huge. Look closer. You'll see the face of a person, thing, or place that you really, really dislike. Ah, it's getting closer. Observe it and call it what it is. Anger. Hey, anger. How you doing today? Here it comes. Brace yourself. Ah! Wait, that wave is already going back to the ocean. It's over. It's over. Now see that wave of anger wash out and fall back. Goodbye, anger. Laters. Here comes another wave. Here comes your friends from 8th grade you haven't seen in 30 years. What the hell are they doing here? And there they go back. Here's some due date waves. My goodness, there are a ton of them. Ex-lovers. What am I going to have for dinner? Did my grandma really love me? All these waves are coming and going in and out of your sight. Whatever the waves are, just observe them. Whatever they are, just watch them come and go. Now let's step back further. Feel the sand on your toes. Feel the warmth of the sun on your back. Feel the warm breeze. Feel your glorious imagination in this beautiful present time. And let all those waves of thoughts just come and go. Are you realizing something? If not, I'll let you know. Okay, take another breath. I'll repeat it many times, but it's important. I take that back. It's extremely important. Ready? Okay. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. I'll repeat it for emphasis. I'll repeat it for dramatic effect. I'll repeat it in different languages. You are not your thoughts. In Hindi, we say,
आप अपने विचार नहीं हैं.
in Chinese, it's,
你不是你的想法。
in Arabic, we say,
أنا لست أفكارك.
in French, it's,
Vous n'êtes pas vos pensées.
and in Spanish, no eres tus pensamientos. You're not your thoughts, honey. But now you know. It's not really a secret, but it is pretty cool, isn't it? A lot of people don't know that they're not their thoughts. A lot of people just are overwhelmed and overtaken by their thoughts, drowning in their endless waves of thought. Negative thoughts in particular seem to be hotspots of attention. But it's not their fault. They're simply unaware. But not us, and not now. Because right now, we realize this. we're not our thoughts. And the more we can step away for a bit and gain proper distance, the more we can truly appreciate living in present time and this present moment. Now you know. Now you really know. So since you know that you're not your thoughts, why not use this knowledge? When we practice this exercise of stepping away to free space in our minds, what we're practicing is simple awareness. We're sensing for once how the mind works. And as we do, we gain a much needed perspective. For you, my dear friend, are not your thoughts. You are merely the observer. This is your present time. This is your private island. You have total control of where you put your attention. It's up to you to choose. These waves of your own thoughts are exactly like the waves of the ocean. The waves of thoughts will always ebb and flow throughout your consciousness. They come at their own discretion. But once you gain awareness of this, you're aware of them, and it's up to you what you do with those waves. You are the observer and the practitioner. You create these thoughts into being. You can choose to dive into those waves or not. You can choose where and how you want to spend your present time, for you have control of how much attention you give to your thoughts. You can decide to explore these thoughts, surf the really big, really exciting waves, or, better yet, dive the depths of those wonderful uncharted waters and come up with buried, beautiful treasure from the unknown. Or, you can decide not to. You can decide to discard some thoughts and let them bounce off and bid them adieu. Depending on what the thought is, you can decide with each and every wave that hits your shore whether or not to give it your attention. This is what it means to be aware. This is what mental freedom truly is. Creative surfing. Sometimes thoughts are really cool. Some waves of thoughts are simply too cool to resist. Some thoughts need to be surfed. And you know what they are. Every time those thoughts come on shore, your eyes light up. You've seen these waves countless times. And every time you immerse yourself in those thoughts, you smile. You smile because deep down you know that these thoughts are the beautiful waves of thoughts, both future and past. And when you see them float across, when you see them near, gathering strength, sometimes you just can't help but to hang on and ride those big, beautiful waves. The thought of the people who you truly love and who truly love you. The thought of just how many people you've helped along the way, and vice versa. The thought of new and wonderful ideas that will not only change your life, but will change the lives of countless others for the better. The thought of world peace, of brotherhood and sisterhood, of humanity truly in love with each other and all of life. Those are some beautiful waves of thoughts. So go ahead. Surf those waves you deem worthy. Surf the thoughts that make you truly feel alive. We're here to become aware, but we're here to have fun too. So, surf's up. Surf's always up. To dive, perchance to dream. Since we can surf thoughts, we might as well dive within them too. And when we dive, we allow ourselves to dream. The dive within these wonderful waves of thoughts is truly one of the most beautiful things humans can do. When we dive within our own thoughts, we don't need any fancy apparatus. All we need is to surrender and leap in. So let's do it. Let's dive into these beautiful waves of thought that we've dived into countless times before. Let's surrender and discover. Let's dive and dream. After all, this is your life. This is your private island. This is your experience. And these are your thoughts. If there are thoughts you deem exciting and worthwhile, please, by all means, explore them all. If you think these thoughts will lead you to a better reality, by all means, explore and dive. And if this thought is truly worth your present time, dive as deeply as you possibly can, for there might be great reward. Diving in with your own waves of thought and swimming beneath the depths of your own thought and consciousness is as old as civilization. In fact, it might be the oldest tradition we humans have. So what are you waiting for? Dive. Explore. Go deep. Go further. Go as deep as you possibly can, my friend, and enjoy your adventure. And when you come back to the surface, when you get back to shore, when you come back to present time, bring back your stories. Bring back your experiences. Bring back your riches and treasures and lessons. But most of all, when you finish your dive within, make sure to bring yourself back to the present moment in present time. Because others will surely want to hear your tales. And I'm sure you can't wait to tell them. Just be careful. In both surfing upon and diving deep within these beautiful waves of thoughts, dangers lurk. We can always decide not to ride these waves, but sometimes we make mistakes. We're human after all. As wondrous as thoughts can be, other thoughts can lead to consequences that can be literally deadly. I'm going to say what many parents say to their children. My dad said this probably every day I knew him. And now, I'm going to say this to you. Just be careful. One slip here, one fall there, and you can easily slip and be lost in that vast ocean of thought that is your consciousness. Thoughts are like potato chips. You just can't have one, and they can get pretty dangerous if you're not careful. A thought will eventually lead to another thought, and the more you associate, the further down you go. So, just be careful. Rip currents of thought. Although surfing and diving in these waves and depths of thought can be really fun, it can also be very dangerous. Lurking in the depths of these waters are dangers beyond your comprehension. There are monsters out there. No, seriously, there are. You think sharks are bad? Your own thoughts, if you allow them to, will not only eat you alive, they'll also take your soul. Because in the murky waters of your mind, you'll encounter an endless supply of rip currents that we simply can't see. Undertows, rip currents, and rip tides can often lead to rabbit holes, gopher holes, and the ever dangerous black holes of consciousness. Needless to say, when you go under, it's pretty deep. Any rip current of thoughts, especially negative thoughts, will take you under and suck up all your attention. And if we're not careful, we could lose hours, days, and even months of precious present time. It happens to everyone. Even the most expert surfer of thought can lose sight of the shore in present time and fall under. Because within rip currents, a pile of thoughts soon submerges you deeper into its realm and submits you into identifying with those thoughts. In other words, once you slip into the current of negative thoughts, your attention will be sucked up so much that you'll soon become the thought itself. It happens so quickly. It happens so quickly it'll make your head spin. The deeper you go, the more you become the thought itself. People become sick. People become angry. People become bitter. People become sad and frustrated. People become hopeless. People become the thought itself. Tragically, some people spend their entire lives underneath rip currents of endless negative thoughts and give up on life. We all know those people. But don't worry, even though this happens to everyone, you can save yourself. You are your own lifeguard. Many can guide you and steer you back. Many can help you. Many can rescue you from the depths and bring you back to shore. But they're not always going to be there for you. In the end, only you can save yourself. In the end, you are your own lifeguard. If you've been on this island for some time, you know which waves will lead to rip currents. If you find yourself caught in a rip current, undercurrent, rabbit hole, or black hole of thought, you have to remember what you've learned. You have to remember how to find the present moment in present time. You have to use the skills you've learned to save yourself from drowning. The more you practice these skills, the easier it is to swim to safety. If you practice the skills so far and practice the basic moves of how to get back to shore and back to present time, you can always rescue yourself. Don't believe me? Let's do it now. Let's save ourselves. If you find yourself in a rip current of thought, don't panic. Just breathe. You know how to breathe. If you forgot, let's breathe right now. Breathe in. That's right. And breathe out. Now look at the thought, whatever it is. Let's practice observing it without any judgment or association. So ask yourself, where are you now? What are you doing? Well, right now you're in the ocean of your mind. Right now, you're aware of these thoughts. Right now, you're above the current. And right now, you can breathe and get back to the present moment and onto shore. Since we know what seconds really are, we can gain a sense of where our time and attention is going. And since we know what thoughts really are, we can sense the separation between the thought and ourselves thinking the thought. And since we know we can always get back to present time, let's do so now. Take another deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. Now let's slowly steer ourselves back to shore and swim to the present moment. Don't rush. Take your time. That's it. Back to the present moment. Back to present time. And here we are again. Back to shore. Phew. It's good to be back, isn't it? On your own private island, you have to be your own lifeguard. Don't worry. You got this. Your own private helicopter. If you got a private island, why not have a helicopter? It's your imagination. You can turn into a butterfly, or a bird if you want to. But when I was writing this, I was thinking about a helicopter. So let's stick with that. Close your eyes a little tighter. Fall deeper into your own imagination. And let's take a ride in our own private helicopter. You see it, don't you? No, not that one. The other one. The shiny one. There you go. That's it. Let's hop in. See the controls? You know exactly what each button does. You don't need a manual. You're the captain of this ship. You've been the captain ever since you were 5 years old. You know the controls. You've done this countless times. Start it up. Let's take off. Going up. I take that back. Really going up. We really need to ascend to a higher plane to see what our little island looks like. We need a bird's eye view. And here it is. Introspective spying. Whoa, we're way up now. We can see a lot from here. So let's take a long look down at your island. Let's see the volcanoes below. Let's see the valleys, the interior. Let's look down at the horizon. Those are some awfully dark-looking clouds. Looks like a storm's heading your way. Now, let's study the shore. Let's look down on the waves of your thoughts. My goodness, there are some choppy waters out there. But there's something else. Let's descend further. Do you see it? Here, grab that telescope. Let's hover over. Let's give it a closer look. Oh man, do you see what I'm seeing? There's a person down there who looks awfully familiar. Hey, this person looks and acts exactly like you. They must be an imposter. Nope, they're not an imposter. They're just a past version of yourself tumbling on shore, completely lost in thought. Again, you're looking at a person who looks and acts really, really similar to you. But they're not you. Right now, you're in your own helicopter. And right now, you're looking down upon a live version of yourself. Remember? Let's take a closer look. A closer look. Okay, we're right over this version of yourself. They can't see us because they're lost in thought. They're right by the shore. Their toes are in the ocean, and those waves of thoughts are all around. Who knows what's going on in their heads? Luckily, we have a pretty good microphone. So let's have a closer listen. A closer listen. People talk to themselves all the time. This version of yourself is no exception. Let's dangle that microphone as close as we can get so we can really listen. Let's listen in. Let's listen in to our mantras, the chants and rhymes and reasons that we constantly repeat to ourselves over and over again. Let's become aware of how unaware this past version of ourselves really is. What do we repeat to ourselves over and over again? What inner song do we sing? Some mantras are truly beautiful. Some mantras are truly horrible. Some mantras are simply commercial jingles. It's quite a mixed bag. Let's tune in the microphone a little clearer this time and listen to our own mantras. What exactly do we say to ourselves every single second of every single day? So what are your mantras? What are your mantras? Only you know what they are. And when you hear them again, you really know. Most of your mantras are complaints. You say them each and every day. And yes, to others, they're really, really annoying. Unfortunately, most of our mantras are negative ones. It's not entirely our fault. Humans have lived in a dangerous world. It's only natural they protect themselves. Hence, it's only natural to constantly reinforce thoughts that reflect a hard reality. However, these mantras are viciously hardwired into our subconscious, and some, if not all of them, really hurt. You know the ones that really hurt. And like an ancient radio station, that version of yourself hears these songs every single day with an endless supply of commercials. Because this is your Inner Mind 101.2. We only play the hits over and over again. What thoughts do you repeat over and over again? Give them a listen. Let's turn to the weather. It's so windy out here. It's so cold. It's brutal. Can't stand this. It's too hot. It's really humid. Man, is it hot. Why can't it be like Hot Pockets? All right, that got boring pretty quickly. Let's switch to reoccurring emotions. Let's go to anxiety. That'll wake us up. I just don't know. I'm too scared. What if it doesn't happen? What if it does happen? I don't know who to trust. This is just too hard. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Yikes. Let's switch to self-loathing. Let's have a good cry. Ready? Okay, here we go. I can't afford that. I need a break. I'm not smart enough. I can never relax. I'm so tired. I never get a break. Not enough time. I'm just not good enough. I'm so bored. And right, you should be with thoughts like those. Goodness gracious. Can we change this channel? Please? Pretty please? Before we change, we must understand. Before we change the channel, we must understand the channel. The channel of your personal mantras wasn't necessarily put there all by yourself. You learned those thoughts from others. And your big, beautiful brain constantly processed those thoughts, so much so that you gave those waves of thoughts all your time and all your attention, and consequently, your entire personality and way of being. That version of you that you're looking down upon doesn't know the basic truths of the matter. That version of yourself has reinforced constant repetition of negative thought patterns, so much so they lost their awareness of it. Consequently, that version of yourself has yet to realize that they are not their thoughts. Right now, you, yes, you, the person in the helicopter, the person looking down upon a version of yourself on your own private island, understands a great deal more. By now, you understand what thoughts are. By now, you understand what seconds are. And by now, you should really understand how precious present time truly is. This past version of yourself clearly needs some help. But what they really need now is for you to love them and make them understand. Cleaning up the mess. Now, you have a choice. You can give that old version of yourself an upgrade and replace those repeated patterns of thoughts with different ones. Or you can keep this version of your former self and continue to be just the way you are. If those mantras, sayings, or affirmations are something you want to keep them. If what you say to yourself each and every day contributes to your own growth and prosperity, your health, and your overall wellness, indeed, these are great things to have and to hold, and by all means, keep them. But if they're not, these patterns, sayings, affirmations, contribute to your own downfall, to your moral/financial bankruptcy, to your own depression, to your frustration and woes, then it's high time to throw them away for good. You have a powerful subconscious, and it happens to come with a badass imagination. Because in that badass helicopter of yours is the most powerful thought vacuum in the world. Now, do me a favor, locate that vacuum, because it's time to suck these ridiculous thoughts up. Psst, it's right beside the fire hydrant. No, up. There you go. Now, take this vacuum, press that button, and suck up all those negative thoughts you say to yourself. This might take a while, but take your time. Take all the time you need. Make sure you got them all. There is a ton of them. Even if you're not done, your vacuum should have a lot of junk in it already. But since this vacuum is also highly cybernetic, it can also tag each unwanted thought with an invalid barcode so that your mind can never take it seriously again. Every thought that your vacuum sucked up has also been deemed invalid. So, even if you were to put these things back into yourself, your program will be unable to read them. So, I'm not good enough, and things never go my way, and I don't, and I can't. All of these thoughts are now invalid. But the greatest part is why. These thoughts have no entry point. These thoughts right now have no point of entry. Your mind in present time simply can't process them anymore. Pretty amazing, huh? I told you that vacuum was powerful. A much needed download. But before we leave our island, we have one last thing to do. We need to leave this past version of yourself with some memorable gifts. In your helicopter, there's a little red button. Found it? Take your time. That little red button is the most important of all. It downloads life-affirming thoughts that the past version of yourself most desperately needs. Now, although you're not your own thoughts, it's very important to have some great thoughts that reinforce the vigor, mystery, and joy of life itself. These thoughts are the big waves of consciousness. These thoughts make you get up in the morning. These thoughts make the mystery of life much grander. These thoughts are life-affirming. Every time you press that little red button, another wave comes into your consciousness. So go ahead, press that little red button and see what it does. Here is the thrilling wave of I can. Want another? By all means, press that little red button again. Here's the strong, confident wave of it will happen. Keep pressing it. It only gets better. Here's the moxie wave of we will find a way. And here is the wondrous wave of every second is a wondrous gift. And if you press it one more time, you'll get the creme de la creme, the one that matters the most. Love is the answer. Keep breathing and watch these new wonderful waves ebb and flow out from yonder. Yeah, I know. You can't help but smile. Let's land this thing. I don't know about you, but I'm pooped. All this change work can be exhausting. Let's land this thing and get back to the island. Stroll in the sand. We can return to our private island anytime we want. Our thoughts are there for us when we need them and when we need to think. But every time we stroll the sands of our own private island, what we do is reinforce the beautiful inner space of our minds, the space between our thoughts and our awareness of them. By strolling the sand, we create the proper space we need, and when space is gained, now is recovered. And by strolling the sand, we affirm what we knew all along. We're living beings in a mysterious cosmos of consciousness, and we're here to explore and enjoy the mystery of being. There's an old saying, you can never go home again. And to some extent, it's true. But on our own private island, that saying is entirely false. This is your creation. This is your home. This is your own private sanctuary. You can go back anytime you want. You can always go back. Anytime you want to, you can visualize it. Anytime you want to, you can sense all your being and witness the shore and its sunrise and sunset. And anytime you want to, you can just take it all in and stroll its sands. Let's get back to the breath. Back to the breath. Inhale once more. Take a deep breath in. Keep it in a little longer this time. Longer. And exhale. One more time. Big breath in and hold it. Now let it go. And each time we do, each time we practice, back to now, back to present time. Now open your eyes. Okay, open your eyes. Hey, how are you? Welcome back to present time. You've been there all along, but welcome back anyway. These exercises are just that, exercises. They are meant to be practice, and you can individualize them any way you see fit. Of course, there are countless more practices you can experiment with, and there are countless ways of finding present time for yourself. Whether it be mindfulness-based meditation, transcendental meditation, or other mantra-based meditations. They're all great, and they can all get you back to the present moment. Some people simply find present time in the things they love to do. And that's great too. Because at the end of the day, if you find and live in present time, you'll get a lot more out of life than waiting for it. If these practices help you, by all means, continue doing them. These practices can be used at any second of any day. And when you catch yourself being lost in thoughts, you can apply what you've learned from these practices and get back to present time at your own discretion. And with your eyes either opened or closed, you realize that this second right now is brand spanking new. And with that second, and with our own time and attention invested in that second, we can now actualize it. And in actualizing, we can make and do. But you'll never get good at finding present time if you don't practice. There's no way around it. You have to practice. These methods of meditation have been developed by humans for humans. But again, they're practices. They work better with time. Over time, if you really do these practices, you'll get great at them. You'll get as good as gravity. And you'll stay like corn on a cob. But you've got to practice. Book 3, Staying Present. Staying present. In this last part of the book, I want to talk about staying present. Because what's the point of being in present time if we can't stay there? Staying present is a day-by-day, second-by-second practice. Finding the present moment is a wonderful practice, but staying present is the ultimate practice. Luckily for us, staying present is simple. It requires a transaction of sorts. However, this transaction must be performed billions of times. What's the transaction? The transaction is a simple trade between you and present time. The more you give the present time, the more present time gives to you. But what do you give? You give your attention. What you give the present time is the most valuable thing you have, your attention. But you've got to remember that it's not a contract. It's a relationship. Your attention to the present moment is a very cosmic, very real relationship. And for it to work, love must be its foundation. It's a two-way street. It's a give and take. And of course, the more you give to it, the more you will receive. But what exactly do you receive? Well, first of all, you'll receive tremendous clarity. Second, you'll receive constant creativity and constant opportunity. But most of all, you'll receive the awareness of all the wonders that make up this world and how lucky you are to be a part of it. Now, that doesn't mean all your dreams will come true. You have to work really hard to achieve your dreams. But when you give your time and attention to the present moment, you receive the present moment in all its entirety. And in turn, life is much more livable. You can't take the past with you, nor can you take the worry of the future. So when you're left with the present, you can in fact live in the present. The more present you stay, the more aware you become. But it goes both ways. The more aware you become, the more you stay present. Your relationship to present time is very much like a dance. It takes two to tango. But once you give your attention to present time immediately falls in step. It's a wonderful, up-tempo waltz that's crazy and free. And deep down, it's a dance that's yours and yours alone. However, if you leave the present moment hanging like a wallflower, you'll forever live in regret. But if you muster up your courage and come to present time and take it by the hand, you'll dance the dance of life, and you'll fall deeply within the wonderful flow of doing. Life is a verb. This earth is moving. This planet is a doing planet. When you give your attention to the present, what you do in turn is that you simply get out of your own way. When you give your attention to present time, hesitation goes out the window. In other words, magic happens. Birds fly, teachers teach, artists create, performers execute, and players play. Does that mean thinking goes out the window? Yes and no. Thinking certainly takes a step back when we stay present. But at the same time, thinking is manifested because when we stay present, we're actualizing and putting those thoughts into existence. We're creating, we're experimenting, we're working, we're taking action. Because before, during, and at the end of the day, life is a verb. Lost in the doing. When you're doing, you are always present. And when you stay present, you tend to become lost in the doing. When you get lost in the doing, you know you're fully present. Scientifically, this phenomenon of being lost in the doing is referred to being in the zone. And when this happens, this is as present time can possibly get. When you see people in the zone, notice how easily they do. They're giving their attention to the present moment, and they're doing what they set out to do with no inside interference. From the outside, it seems magical, but on the inside, it's a pretty simple chemical reaction that's so familiar that it becomes automatic. When your mind is clear, you get lost in the doing. So, whether you're shaping, sculpting, snorkeling, skiing, stretching, speaking, stretching, or snowboarding, it's really hard to do these things with a mind filled with endless thoughts. But when your mind is clear, when your inner thoughts no longer dictate and control your emotions, and when there is true peace within, creative doing is not only possible, it's inevitable. Lost in creation. You cannot create in the past. You cannot create in the future. You can only create now. Hence, it's only necessary to say while you're lost in the doing, you're simultaneously lost in creation. But what creation? Yours, of course. Because with each present moment and present time, there is constant opportunity, constant learning, and constant creativity. When you give your attention to only now, you can create whatever it is you want. The present moment is constantly creative. In case you don't know it already, You are creating your own reality. And when you're lost in creation, you can literally create anything. What you create in this life is your poetry. It decodes not just your personality, but all of what genetically makes you, you. Whether it's building a chair or an empire. Whether it's losing 15 pounds or daring to do something really, really brave. You put your own spin on what life throws at you. And how you do it is an extension of your own creation. When you're creating, you're not just surfing the thoughts or diving deep within them. When you're creating, you're putting thoughts into existence. Because once you become aware, and once you paid your debts to the present moment, you literally go beyond time. Being lost in creation means using the magic inside you that you always knew you had, and using it with the least amount of effort. Being lost in creation also means following not just your passion, not just your bliss, not just your own vocation, but also your ultimate vision. For when you're lost in creation, you become the ultimate magician. This is your life. This is your creation. This is your poetry. Adaptation. Staying present is not just a daily adjustment. It's a constant adaptation. When we stay present, we adapt to each and every second. So what does it mean to adapt? To adapt means to change. But not just change. Adapt also means to go with the flow of change. Plants adapt to their environment. Birds do as well. And human beings adapt to each and every day, whether they know it or not. In every case of adaptation, necessary changes are required. Plans are changed, and the realities of your own environment dictate the moves you make for surviving. But how do we adapt? We adapt by making constant and necessary changes. When we stay present, we gain new senses to make better decisions. We switch our batting stance. We take note of what's not working, and we make the proper adjustments to make it work. But what are these senses? When we stay present, we gain the senses of perspective, direction, timing, humor, and gratefulness. Now, in truth, these senses are not new, but they do tend to get lost from time to time. And when we rediscover these vital senses, we make remarkable strides. Many people say they don't like change. But, in reality, that's why life remains the great mystery that it is. Change, by definition, requires forces of momentum. Physically, biologically, economically, philosophically, sociologically, and spiritually, to stay present, we take this moment in present time to adjust and recalibrate. The changes we make in ourselves are the changes required to participate in this beautiful evolution of being. So we adapt, we adjust, and we make new moments. Sense of perspective. And so, we adapt. And as we do, our newfound senses start to follow us, starting with our sense of perspective. Put simply, our perspective is our knowledge of where we are and how we observe things as a result of using our 5 physical senses. Our perspective is not only our unique outlook of being aware that we are aware, it is also, truly, our only understanding of where we are in the universe. As you learn your way through life, your perspective gets better and better. And the reason is this. When you really achieve your sense of perspective, you'll understand that your perspective goes beyond your ego. For when you stay present, you realize just how tiny you really are. Yet, at the same time, you realize how important you are to the people around you. And that's only because your perspective is your ultimate realization. And although you just might be a speck of a speck, you're an important one. Because within your own perspective, you can truly sense the world you create. Sense of direction. With perception comes direction. And when you stay present, you know where you are. But also, you know where you're going. A sense of direction is not a sense to take lightly. You can't have a sense of direction when your mind is constantly retreating back to the past or ahead to the future. When you stay present, forward momentum is a wonderful sense to have. When you have a sense of direction, You also ask extremely important questions of the thoughts jamming about in your mind. Of course, there are some good questions. Where are we? Where do we want to be? How are we going to get there? But with a sense of direction, you can also get to ask some really, really good questions. Are these thoughts that I'm having useful? Will these thoughts harm anyone? How can I show my love? How can I help my world? Do you know people with a bad sense of direction? They all have one thing in common. They don't know where they're going. Now, that's not a bad thing per se. Many people don't know where they're going. Do you have a terrible sense of direction? Well, you're not alone. I too had an awful time with direction. For long periods, I didn't know what to do with my life. For even longer periods, I didn't know who to trust. In fact, I wrote a whole book trilogy about a man who truly doesn't know what he wants in the world, just to reflect what I was feeling in my late teens and early 20s. And yes, within the writing and in my own personal life, I got lost plenty of times. But I also came to understand why these things were so true and why I felt so miserable and lost. And it came down to one fundamental fact. I wasn't present. Many times, I worried about a future that I couldn't perceive. And even more times, I fell into the rip current of a past that I could not escape. And in all that time, I ignored the wonder that is now, and I denied present time in the present moment over and over again. Luckily, I got myself out. Luckily, I studied the work of some great people who guided me through. And luckier, I had great friends who helped me along the way. I'm still kind of figuring things out, but I'm light years better than I used to be. And I'm forever grateful for all those who helped me. Direction is an internal sense. There is an internal compass that leads you to your own journey. People can help you. But, like most things, it's best when you figure it out on your own. Direction comes in many forms. But forward into the light is always a great start. And if you're heading that way, just keep going. Sense of timing. When we stay present, we know exactly what time it is. Time is often conflated with luck, but I personally don't believe in luck. I believe in effort, good timing, and bad timing. There's good timing, there's great timing, and then there's bad timing. And of course, there's terrible timing. Timing in the abstract is one thing, but when it really matters and when we really use time well is when we're doing. For when we gain a sense of timing, we know exactly what to do and at what time. So let's do it now. Let's sense the time. Whatever time of year, whatever time of the month, day, hour, or minute, let's sense it. Acknowledge this second right now as it is. And notice that there will never be one quite like it. Timing is everything, but our sense of it guides our everyday lives more than we realize. To reacquire our sense of timing, we must always stay present. And the longer we stay present, timing gets woven within us and becomes one of our greatest strengths. In any memorable encounter, the sense of timing is always marveled at. And in any profession, the sense of timing is crucial. The opera singer knows what notes to hit, but what she really, really knows is the exact nanosecond of when to hit them. Comedians also know the ins and outs of their own rhythm on stage. Chefs, doctors, nurses, lawyers, teachers, entrepreneurs, engineers, business people, and indeed anyone who does anything can appreciate the fact that timing is everything. And of course, farmers know exactly when and what to plant. My dad was no exception. Every year, Dad would say something that always rang echoes in my head. He'd say it repeatedly, and he'd say it with a smile. It gets laid early. In New Jersey, on the longest day of the year, which happens to be pretty brutally hot, my dad would already be preparing for the upcoming winter. "Come on, Dan, we gotta plant squash and sweet potatoes," he'd say. "Winter's coming. It gets laid early." Each day counts. And when it's time to plant squash, you simply plant squash. When we stay present, we always know what's up. We always know what time it is. And we know that it gets late early. Sense of humor. Human beings make errors. That's just our nature. Sometimes we're just dumb. And then there are some times when we're really dumb. When we stay present, we have a sense of perspective to understand our world, and a sense of humor to properly engage within it. Do you know people with no sense of humor? Don't judge them. Have compassion for them. Clearly, they have agendas. Clearly, much is on their minds. And clearly, you wouldn't want to spend more than 2 minutes with them. But you know, deep down, they're clearly missing out. When we lose our sense of humor, we lose our sense of humanity. This would be a very boring world if we could not laugh. And when you lose your sense of humor, it's a sure sign that you're taking things way too seriously. In humor and language of comedy, there are no sacred cows. When you make fun of people, it is your obligation to make fun of everyone, including yourself. Because to engage within the world around us, a levity of mind, body, and soul is super important. It's what makes us human. Our sense of humor saves us. Our sense of humor enriches us. But, most importantly, our sense of humor allows us to forgive our own stupidity. I developed my sense of humor pretty early. One Christmas Eve, I secretly placed a self-adhesive bow on my dad's butt. All day long, that bright, shiny purple bow stuck on his derriere. All day long, I followed him as we made our rounds, visiting friends and family. And all day long, my dad was completely unaware. It wasn't until our family priest, Father La Rosa, pointed out the obvious that I knew, clearly, the jig was up. And from there, the everlasting moment was created. Because from there, Father La Rosa shouted out 7 incredulous and unforgettable words that would be forever imprinted in my brain. "John, there's a bow on your ass!" Luckily, my dad forgave me pretty quickly. Don't take your sense of humor lightly. It's a super important sense, because it reinforces your humanity. And without it, life really wouldn't be too livable. And by the way, fart jokes are always welcomed. Sense of gratitude. A simple thank you goes a long way. When you're truly grateful, you're truly aware. And when you stay present, gratitude becomes your permanent residence. Being grateful is a state of mind and a sign of wisdom. But in essence, being grateful is a practice, and it might be the most important practice of them all. What does it mean to have a sense of gratitude? It means that you're aware of what you have and who you are. Even when you think you have nothing, when you stay present and you are truly aware, you realize what you really have. And what you have are seconds of wonderful opportunity. The opportunity to learn, the opportunity to love, the opportunity to make the impossible happen. When you really understand the opportunity of each second, you can't help but be grateful. You're a human being. However unfair your life may seem, your dignity as a human being comes from using these moments to the best of your ability. So what happens when you don't have a sense of gratitude? Well, to put it bluntly, when you lose your sense of gratitude, you lose everything. You lose your perspective. You lose your direction. You'll certainly lose your sense of timing, and you'll definitely not laugh too much. Because when you don't possess a sense of gratitude, you simply deny the gift of life before you. You simply take things entirely for granted. You'll simply complain for complaining's sakes because of one simple fact. Your awareness is solely upon yourself. The world is more complicated than we realize. You're not going to get along with everyone. Granted, some human beings are real jerks. But then there are other human beings who just make you smile every time you think of them. And in reality, that smile is an acknowledgement. It's a simple subconscious thank you that hardly gets noticed. Or in reality, those people who make you smile did something for you that no other person could. They used the present time they had with you, and they made you feel very much loved. So why not do the same for others? If you have awareness, you will have gratitude. It's impossible not to. Life is beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's all very bizarre. Life might just be a mistake, but if it is, it's a beautiful mistake. And when you stay present, gratitude becomes your ultimate attitude. These senses all work together. Like your physical senses, these present senses and present time work best in conjunction with each other. And when you stay present, your senses of perspective, direction, timing, humor, and gratitude all work together in beautiful harmony. However, when you stay locked to the past or glued to the future, and you spend all your energy dreading or bracing yourself for impact, these beautiful present time senses will simply disappear. It's a wonderful trick that our big, beautiful brain always seems to forget. But you're my friend, and I want the best for you. So I'm going to remind you of what you really have and who you really are. You're a human being on planet Earth with senses that might as well be superpowers. These senses of present time are evolutionary, revolutionary, and fundamental. And altogether makes us a very special species. Never take them for granted. A past we can learn from. When you stay present and do not cling to the past, but instead learn from it, great things can be accomplished. When we adhere to applying what we learn, we can literally shape our future in present time. And when we decide not to do the dumb things that failed time and time again in the past, we know we're making progress. History is a trip. But if you're alive, it happens to be your trip. And what you take from it is all the lessons that it provides you. A present time for the taking. We came here to experience life, and these moments are right before you. These moments are happening. You're happening. And when you're conscious of your own awareness, crazy stuff happens. You stop analyzing, you stop complaining, and you stop affirming and following emotional states of lacking and sadness. In other words, you start living. And when you actualize and experience the present moment, and you realize it's yours for the taking, you will truly realize how great of a gift it truly is. Everlasting moments. When we really start living, we create everlasting moments. Everlasting moments are moments when life is affirmed. These moments go beyond time because they live forever in spirit. Whether it be experiences gained, changes for the better, or little blips of pure joy, everlasting moments live on and are wired into our consciousness. But, unlike memories, everlasting moments transcend the mere fabric of time. Just to be clear, everlasting moments are not just memories. Rather, they are signal points that remind you of the utter and real feeling of being alive. These moments are interwoven into your personality. These moments can be retrieved at any time and in any place. But when they happen in present time, there's an immediate acknowledgement. Every moment I spent with my dad was an everlasting moment. There might have been some tension mixed in with slight annoyances, but when I allow myself to think of him and the moments I spent with him, I know those moments never truly die. I don't live within these moments. Rather, they are within me. His booming laugh, his infectious smile, certain things he said at certain times. All of those moments are everlasting to me. And on my own private island, I surf those thoughts every day. Because every time I do, they give me great joy. You too will create everlasting moments. Each moment in present time can become an everlasting moment. You too will create everlasting moments in your life. Each and every moment is an opportunity to make an everlasting moment. So make sure they're good moments, because if they're bad moments, they have just as much power. Decide to love, decide to be, decide to make. For once you make everlasting moments, however small, you'll create and reaffirm this mystery of life. These moments are welded into memory, but they simply don't die, for they become the expression of how you lived your life. But beyond deciding, you must do. For if you cannot do, you cannot participate in present time. And if you can't do, you'll never make everlasting moments. Once you've made enough everlasting moments, You cannot help but to make more, but it's up to you to make them. Right now, you can make an everlasting moment. Right now, you can be present in present time. Right now, you can do battle with your thoughts, or simply acknowledge them and step aside. Because right now, you can make a decision. Right now, you can decide to change your socks, or you can decide to change your entire life. And in both cases, it's only if you want to. Right now, you can call up or message a dear friend and tell them you love them. Right now, you can reach out to someone you don't even know and say hello. Right now, you can decide to finally learn a foreign language. Ahora mismo puedes cambiar tu vida. Right now, you can refuse to listen to people who put you down. Right now, you can explore. Right now, you can breathe. Right now, you can love. And right now, you can actually live. Because right now is the present moment in present time. Breathe in. The time is now. We're at now. So breathe in. Because each time you breathe in, you'll be distinctly aware of how beautiful this life really is. And breathe out. Let's go back one more time and appreciate the gift you have right at this moment. We're not going to waste these present moments. We're going to live them. We're going to live them to the best of our ability. Let's live our hearts out. One day at a time. 1 minute at a time. 1 second at a time. Present moment, baby. This is the present moment. This is present time. As my dad would say, it's the present moment, baby. As long as you're breathing, as long as you know you're experiencing it, as long as you're doing and are aware of it, present moment is always here for you. And when you lose it, you can always get it back. All you have to do is stop and breathe. For when you give your attention to the present moment, it always gives back to you. And here it is again.